Most of us walk through life carrying the quiet burden of feeling separate from others, from purpose, from the very flow of life itself. We speak of ourselves as isolated points of consciousness, struggling to make meaning, to make progress, to be something more than what we are. But this, you see, is the great illusion, the myth of separation. And it is precisely this illusion that keeps us from thinking truly big. Because what does it mean, really, to think bigger? It is not merely dreaming of grander achievements or louder success. No, it is to stretch the boundaries of self, to dissolve the hardened edges of identity, and realize that you are not some lonely wanderer cast into a cold, indifferent cosmos. You are the cosmos, localized, momentarily aware of itself through your eyes, your breath, your heartbeat. You are not here to conquer the world, you are the world. Learning to recognize its own reflection in the mirror of your experience, and when you begin to see that, not as poetry, but as lived truth, something subtle but profound happens. The need to prove yourself begins to fade. The urgency to compare, to climb, to outpace others melts away like mist at dawn, because suddenly, you're not playing a game of ego. You're participating in a movement far greater than yourself. A dance, a symphony, a divine unfolding, in which even your doubts and detours play their part. You are never outside of it, never waiting to be worthy enough to belong. You always belonged. You are always intricately woven into the fabric of existence, just like the tide belongs to the moon, just like the seed belongs to the soil. Even your fears, your failures, your fumbling attempts to get life right, they too are part of the choreography. There is no wasted step in this great movement. And yet, the illusion is persistent. We keep asking, who am I? Why am I here? What should I do with my life? As if the answers lie somewhere beyond the horizon, just out of reach. But maybe the question isn't one of finding your place, but of remembering it. You were not cast adrift. You were summoned, called forth by the very same mystery that ignites stars and teaches birds to migrate. That same mystery lives in you, as you is, waiting patiently for you to see it, not as something out there, but as the essence of what you already are. When you begin to think from this space, from the vastness of what is already true you, stop trying to build a life from scarcity. You start responding to life with awe. You begin to act not from fear or lack, but from communion with something deeper. You stop trying to chase the current, and instead, you become the current. And when that shift happens, when your sense of self expands beyond the small and the separates your vision naturally widens, your decisions become clearer, your steps become lighter. You begin to move with a kind of quiet urgency, not from pressure, but from alignment. And this is the paradox. The moment you stop seeing yourself as separate from life, is the moment life begins to move through you with power, with clarity, with grace. You don't have to push so hard. You don't have to know every detail of the path. You just have to remember that you are the path, that you are the river, that you are the sky observing itself in the water. So if you're waiting for a sign to think bigger, here it is. You are not a fragment, you are the whole, briefly appearing as a person. The moment you recognize that, you'll stop asking life for permission and start living like you belong to the stars. You are not a wave learning to crash, you are the ocean, learning to remember. We have come to fear time as if it were some merciless force pulling us forward before we're ready. We speak of it chasing us, slipping through our fingers, running out. We measure our worth by how much we've done within its narrow bounds. And we suffer under the illusion that if we don't move quickly enough, we'll fall behind, be forgotten, or somehow miss our moment. But this, too, is a misunderstanding, because time, you see, is not your enemy. Time is the rhythm of your unfolding. It is not a threat, it is an instrument. Just as music is not made from notes alone, but from the spaces between them, your life is not defined only by movement, but by the pauses, the stillness, the silence. There is a deeper tempo beneath all this rushing, and that tempo is not about speed, but alignment. To move faster, in the truest sense, is not to scramble or to sprint, it is to enter into harmony with the quiet intelligence that already knows where you're meant to go. You are not behind, you are not late, you are arriving, always, in divine time. When we fall into the trap of urgency, we become frantic. We move not with presence, but with panic. We confuse motion with progress, and noise with significance. But the river does not rush because it fears the sea, it flows because it knows. And so it moves not in resistance, but in complete surrender to the slope of the earth. Can you feel the difference? It's not about slowness or laziness, it's about trust. It's about recognizing that you are being carried by something deeper than your own plans. And here's the paradox. When you trust that, when you move with the current instead of against it, everything does begin to move faster, not in chaos, but in clarity. You begin to make decisions with more certainty. You let go of what no longer fits without needing 100 reasons why. You don't waste energy dragging dead weight or rehearsing imaginary futures. You become fluid, direct, awake, aligned. Speed then becomes less about acceleration and more about precision. It's not how fast you can go, but how deeply you can listen. The more you're attuned to the pulse of your own becoming, the quicker your steps feel natural, inevitable. There's no hesitation, not because you're rushing, but because you're ready. You've stopped resisting the moment you're in. Think of how a tree grows. It doesn't leap from seed to sky overnight, and yet no one doubts that it's growing. Its pace is set by something ancient, something perfectly timed, and so it reaches, day by day, without anxiety. Because it knows it is becoming exactly what it was meant to become. So are you. So maybe it's not about speeding up, or slowing down. Maybe it's about learning how to move in tune with the part of you that already knows. The part that isn't worried about missing out or messing up, because it's rooted in something far older than fear. When you align with that, your actions become clean. Your energy becomes sharp. You don't waste time chasing what isn't yours. You don't pause for every doubt. You simply move, not because you're afraid of standing still, but because stillness itself has spoken, and you've listened. So don't be fooled by the ticking clock, or the world's obsession with urgency. True speed comes from stillness. True movement comes from listening. When you stop fighting time, time begins to carry you. And then, the path that once felt uncertain becomes clear, not because it suddenly appeared, but because you finally became quiet enough to see it. You do not move to escape time. You move because time has chosen you to dance. We often treat challenges as intrusions, as if life were meant to be smooth, and anything difficult is somehow out of place. But what if it's the other way around? What if the very friction you resist is precisely what carves depth into your experience? What if every trial is not a detour, but a doorway, an invitation into a deeper knowing of yourself and the world around you? We've been taught to run from discomfort, to silence it with noise, to escape it through endless distractions. Yet the great irony is that silence and challenge are not here to harm you. They are the most honest teachers you'll ever meet. When the world quiets, when plans collapse, when the future blurs, that's when life leans in and whispers something you would never have heard otherwise. That whisper is not always kind, but it is always true. The pain, the pause, the problem, there, not mistakes. They are mirrors. And the moment you stop trying to escape them, they begin to show you exactly where you're clinging, exactly where you're hiding, exactly what part of you is asking to be seen, acknowledged, transformed. There's a strange kind of grace in this, a divine elegance in the way life doesn't waste even a single shadow. Even your confusion has a role in the great choreography. And this isn't about romanticizing suffering. It's not about pretending that hardship is pleasant or asking you to suppress how deeply it can cut. No, it's about recognizing that suffering, when met with awareness, becomes a sacred kind of alchemy. It reveals the places where you are out of step with your own truth. It breaks down what is false so that something more whole can emerge. But you have to be willing to sit in the silence. You have to stop rushing to fix everything. Stop trying to outrun the feelings that arise when life no longer goes according to plan. In that quiet, uncomfortable space beneath the surface panic, there's wisdom. There's an intelligence working behind the curtain of your awareness, rearranging you from the inside out. And if you can stay there long enough without fleeing, you'll begin to sense it. The subtle reweaving of your path, the quiet strengthening of your spirit, the refinement of your attention. You'll begin to understand that difficulty is not an interruption to your journey. It is your journey. And silence is not the absence of meaning. It's the space in which meaning is born. Most people try to control life like a script. They want answers, blueprints, guarantees. But real growth doesn't work like that. It emerges like tension and release, from notes and rests, from chaos and order dancing together. So think of your challenges as part of that music. Each dissonant chord, each unexpected pause, adds depth and color to the melody of your life. Without them, everything would be flat, predictable, shallow. It's the contrast that gives beauty its shape, the shadows that make the light feel sacred. And the more you embrace that, the more gracefully you begin to move through uncertainty, not with resistance, but with curiosity, not asking, why is this happening to me? But, what is this trying to show me? And the extraordinary thing is, when you begin to listen in this way, when you stop labeling your experiences as good or bad, and start meeting them as they are, you'll find that life begins to respond. Patterns unravel. Clarity emerges, not because everything outside has changed, but because you have. There is no wasted silence. There is no useless trial. Everything is part of your becoming. What you called darkness was always a seed waiting for you to stop running and finally grow. So much of life is spent in search for meaning, purpose, clarity, direction. We speak of the future as something we must chase, as though who we are now is somehow incomplete, unfinished, unworthy. We postpone our joy until we've proven enough, earned enough, become enough. But what if the truth is far simpler and far more wondrous? What if you are not something to be fixed, but something to be revealed? Not a problem to solve, but a light to uncover. You are already what you seek. Beneath the layers of doubt, behind the stories you've told yourself, within the quiet center of your being, there's a light, and it has never flickered. It has never left you. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment or the right achievement to turn on. It simply waits for you to remember. We often think awakening is some grand event, something mystical or dramatic, something reserved for monks in distant monasteries or sages sitting in silence. But awakening is ordinary. It happens in the most human places, in your kitchen, in traffic, in the pause before a difficult decision. It happens when you stop trying to become something and start listening to what you already are. There's a profound intelligence woven into your breath, your instincts, your longings. You don't need to invent your purpose, you need only uncover it. But uncovering doesn't mean chasing. It means clearing away, letting go of the masks, the expectations, the fears that keep you from stepping into your own radiance. So many of us wait for permission, waiting to feel ready, waiting for external validation, waiting until things feel safer or more certain. But there is no cosmic judge holding you back. There is only the voice within you that whispers, "Not yet," and that voice is a ghost, a trick of the mind, because the truth is it has always been now. You've walked through fire. You've survived storms. You've carried sorrow and still managed to love. If you only knew how extraordinary that is, you'd stop doubting your strength. You'd stop thinking you need to earn your place in the world. The miracle is not in what you will become, but in who you already are right now, in this moment. You were not placed here to chase light. You were born of it, and when you see that, when you feel it in your bones, something shifts. You begin to live less from fear and more from fullness. You stop asking the world what you're allowed to do, and you start listening to what your soul is already asking you to express. Your words become clearer, your steps, sure. You stop waiting for a path and start walking like the path was made. For your feet alone, this is not arrogance, this is not ego, this is reverence. It's the understanding that you are not a mistake or a coincidence, but a note in the great harmony of life. You don't have to roar to be powerful. You don't have to rush to be relevant. You simply have to stop dimming what was always meant to shine. So think bigger, not because you need to escape who you are, but because who you are is vast beyond measure. Move faster, not out of panic, but because the time for hiding is over. The world is waiting for the real youth, the one that remembers their origin, their rhythm, their light. You were not meant to remain asleep, tiptoeing through your own life, waiting for a sign. You are the sign, you are the spark. And once you see it, there is no going back. The light you're searching for is the light that's been waiting to move through you all along. Top of form, bottom of form.